You're listening to Acciopolitics, a Harry Potter reread podcast that focuses on politics in the wizarding world. As always, I'm Adri, back from winter break. I am one of your hosts and a recovering English major.
And I'm Helene, your co-host and producer.
Hello, Helene. How was your break?
It was really good. I got to see my sister. I went to visit her and her fiance, Chaz, in Kentucky. Well, they live in Indiana technically, but we spent most of the time in Kentucky.
Is it like the border?
Yeah, they live in New Albany, Indiana, which is literally like less than 15 minutes away from Louisville. So,
okay.
And then her fiance, Chaz, has, his family has a horse farm in Lexington, which is more like more closer to the middle of Kentucky than Louisville is. And so we spent Christmas at the farm. It's becoming a cute little like newer tradition that I go and spend Christmas with them. It's fun because, I mean, obviously I'm Jewish and I don't celebrate Christmas. So it's nice to be able to like share in on this other family's Christmas traditions. And my sister and I threw a Hanukkah party because Hanukkah overlapped with Christmas this year. It doesn't happen very often. But we made latkes and sufganiyot, which are like fried jelly donuts
Ooh.
from scratch. So yeah, it was really nice. It was just the break and relaxation that I needed.
Well. Are you living your own Hallmark Christmas movie? Is this what's happening?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty picturesque, except for the fact that almost everyone got sick afterwards, except me. I dodged it. I didn't get sick. But my sister and Chaz got sick. And by sick, I don't think anyone got COVID, thankfully. But like most people walked away with like a pretty bad head cold. So I don't know how, but I completely dodged it. I didn't get sick at all, which is just miraculous, to be honest. So
well, you did live your own Hallmark movie. You just managed to escape that head cold.
Yes. And I didn't run into hardly any flight issues, which is crazy because I flew right during like the Arctic blast, like snowstormy thing that was going on around Christmas.
Yeah.
So.
Well, my cousin's flight got canceled on the 24th. She was supposed to be here in San Antonio. So that happened, and we kind of were really bummed out, and we're like, oh no, and now I can't go to Puerto Rico because she was going to help me with Livy, like on the flight home and stuff like that. So then we decided to, fuck it, we need to just rebook this flight. So she flew in on the 31st. We spent New Year's Eve, and we're still here together, and we're leaving on January 6th. And getting to Puerto Rico on that most wonderful of holidays, which is the Three Wise Men holiday in Puerto Rico, which is still part of the Christmas celebration.
Cool.
We've been to the botanical gardens, so we've been to the aquarium. We've done a lot of fun stuff, and we've eaten a lot of food, I have to say.
That is one of the best parts of vacation is the food.
Yeah, right? It's the food. I'm always like, the first thing I do when I travel somewhere else is like make a list of all the restaurants I want to try.
Yeah. And my sister and I spent a lot of time baking and cooking together that week that I spent with her. So food is just like a way that I feel like a lot of people bond, and I like it.
And you watched Wednesday, did you not?
We did. We watched all of Wednesday. We binged it. It was delightful. Loved it.
I know. I'm like, more, please, now. Yes. Thank you.
Yes, we also watched The Glass Onion, Knives Out, The Glass Onion, the second one. That one was very enjoyable as well. I have
not yet been able to watch it, but it's on my list. Another exciting thing that's been happening is that our little Livy, the baby of the podcast. Do I even know words anymore? No.
Yeah, you're like, I think you were trying to say the podcast baby, maybe. Possibly,
yeah, the podcast baby, the baby of the podcast. Who knows? Whatever. Has been discovering sounds and like coming into her own. She can say mama now. It's the most amazing thing ever. Oh. But also, she has her own little laugh, and I just want to play a little clip of it because I had to get it for this. Yeah,
Aw, she's a
that's what's
very
happening.
happy baby.
Except for when she's grumpy like today. That was not today. That was another day where we were having a great time and she was giggling at everything.
Aw. Well, it's probably 50-50, just like it is with adults. Half the time you're crying, half the time you're laughing.
Or no, she just like today she was just not just crying, but also like just looking at us like she was like, "What are you guys doing here? I don't even like you. Ew, go away." But also don't go away because I'll start crying.
Well, you are the source of her food and overall well-being, so if you went away, I think she would be even more upset.
Yeah, I think she's kind of like a teenager that way, like just like grumpy, like leave me alone, but also don't leave.
Oh man, you don't want to start those teenage years too early. That's a lot.
She's really advanced for her age, Helene. I'm telling you, she's a genius.
Oh man, that's hilarious.
But we're not here to talk about my baby genius or the podcast baby. We're here to talk about chapter 21 of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, titled The Tale of the Three Brothers.
Yep,
Yep.
that's the one.
That's the one.
I mean, I feel like I can just visualize the entire chapter in my mind because the scene in the movie was just that good.
I was just thinking about that when I was reading it for today. I was like, oh yeah, the actual scene from the movie. Basically, this entire chapter. It was great.
Yeah. I basically you just read a children's book for the chapter. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah, it's a fantastic thing.
Yeah. But before we get there, I did have one piece of updated news. I will say I wrote down this piece of news before winter break because that's when I prepped my doc before leaving for my sisters. So this might be a little outdated, but I think it's, good enough to share anyway. But the January 6th committee did refer Trump and others, quote unquote others, to the DOJ on 4 official charges and also 2 unofficial charges, or 2 unofficial recommendations for charges, is what I meant. And those 4 those official charges were obstructing an official proceeding, defrauding the United States, making false statements, and assisting or aiding in an insurrection. That one's a doozy.
I feel like those charges are pretty straightforward.
Yes. This is basically best case scenario for all of those people like me who watched every single January 6th committee meeting.
Yeah, the hearing? Yeah.
Yeah, the hearings, right. I was like, meeting, hearing, I can't remember the word. But
Words, what are
this was
they? I don't
basically
understand.
exactly. And as a podcast host, both of us, that's probably something we should figure out sooner rather than later. But
I was just thinking that. I was like, great job, guys. Like, choosing this medium.
oh, man. We'll get
Mouth
words down
words.
eventually.
Mouth
Yes.
words.
But yeah, this was basically the best of what we could ask for. Now all we have to do is just wait and see if the DOJ takes these recommendations and officially charges Donald Trump with these 4 things, or even just one of those things, because being indicted by the US government does nullify any opportunity for him to run for office in the future. So let's just fingers crossed.
Well, you know who's not having a great week either? Kevin McCarthy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He
I was
lost.
like, who?
Well, other than Olivia right now, Kevin McCarthy lost 3 rounds of votes for Speaker of the House yesterday.
Yeah, there was a pretty funny meme going around today on Twitter where people were just like, they were just tweeting, all right, I'll be the Speaker of the House. I'll do it.
Like, I don't feel bad for the guy. Like, clearly he's scum, but like,
yeah,
part of it is like, Oh, he worked so hard and lobbied so hard to like finally get to this place where everyone thought, maybe like a couple of weeks ago, if you had asked any political commentator, that would have been like, of course, Kevin McCarthy is going to be the Speaker of the House. And then like everything just fell apart in the last few weeks. And now he's just like, that is not a foregone conclusion anymore
Yeah.
because of the fractures within the GOP. So that has been interesting to watch.
Yeah. Just watching the GOP kind of crumble before our eyes the last few years has been just really interesting.
Well, we
I gotta
keep
say.
saying watching them crumble, and then they keep like, I don't know, resuscitating themselves somehow.
I
So
mean, every time they come back, it's much weaker than they were before.
so
So
like
I'm not too worried about it.
this so every time they come back, a Horcrux has been destroyed.
Right, they're running low. They're running low on their stock of Horcruxes, and they're going to run out soon. So,
I love this analogy for us. I love this for
right.
us.
Do we think that they made 7 just like Voldemort, or do we think they made more or less? What do you think?
Maybe like 13, because it's the GOP. So
Oh man, Voldemort's not going to be happy about that. Someone beat his record for Horcrux making.
they're big fans of Taylor Swift. What can I say? Just kidding, Swifties, don't come at me. I'm one of you,
Anyway.
please. It was a terrible joke.
Anyway. Put your pitchforks away, Swifties.
If you say anyway one more time, we are going to get canceled off the air, even though we're the ones producing this podcast.
Yeah. Anyway. We're gonna go. I'm gonna read you the chapter summary. That's what I'm gonna do right now. Are you ready?
Thank you so much. I am so ready.
Okay. So now we're actually back to Harry Potter, by the way. Sorry, we're changing gears. This is what happened in chapter 21. So this is the one where, after arriving at Xenophilius Lovegood's house, inquiring about the mark of the Deathly Hallows, Harry learns the tale of the three brothers, a story from the Tales of Beedle the Bard that talks about an Elder Wand, a Resurrection Stone, and an invisibility cloak that, if combined, can make the owner Master of Death. The trio argue for a while about whether or not such items could possibly exist, while Xenophilius awaits the arrival of the Ministry to capture them as an attempt to get Luna back safely. The Ministry workers arrive, but the trio escape just in time as Xenophilius' house crumbles around them.
Whew. Well. What did we think about this chapter? First thoughts.
It was fine. I mean, like, I think that the first time I read it, it made more of an impact, and I was like, oh, like, that's cool. But this time, I don't know. It felt like not as important of a chapter. Like, it felt kind of skippable, even though technically, like, in terms of the plot, it is very important.
Yeah, perhaps I don't know. It's weird, right? Like first we were talking about how it was so vivid in our minds because of the movie, and I think like if it weren't for the movie showcasing the chapter like they did, it probably wouldn't have been as vivid of a chapter for me. So like we're in a way we're a little bit tainted by the movie adaptation of this book, but the like what you also say is true, like in like the second or third or fourth reading, however many like you've read, but specifically for the show, because we're like keeping it contained to that one chapter, well, it's like it seems like so nothing burger, even though it has a lot of the information that they use later on.
Yeah, and it honestly made me, it begs the question for me, because obviously like Xenophilius puts a lot of stock in the fact that combining the three items makes one Master of Death. And I feel like technically we see that like come to be in the ending of this book, where Harry, he has everything. He has the cloak, he has the wand, and he has the stone as he's going to meet Voldemort in the forest for their final battle.
No, he doesn't have the. Does he have the Elder Wand when he goes to meet Voldemort? I thought Voldemort had it.
Well, I thought he had, and you know what? Maybe Voldemort does still have it at that point.
Yeah, because and then he
So
leaves the
yeah, so
stone. Yeah,
then
he never really has all three of them
so
at the
yeah,
same time.
so yeah, I was gonna say because yeah, so like the ending of my sentence was like even though like I mistakenly remembered that he had them all at the same time, we don't really see like what Xenophilius means by becoming the master of death. Like we don't see that payoff. And I guess it is because no one ever actually has them all at the same time
No.
because Harry has the wand, or Harry has the cloak and the stone as he's going to see Voldemort, and then he drops the stone in the forest so
Yep.
that no one can find it anymore because it looked like just another rock in the forest. Um, and so then he has the cloak, but Voldemort has the wand, and then when he has the wand, he doesn't have the stone.
Well,
Harry.
technically, not even Dumbledore had all three at once because he always had like the cloak and the wand, but not the stone. Because remember, the
No, Dumbledore.
stone,
Dumbledore had this. Dumbledore had the stone. He gave the stone
he
to
had
Harry
the, yes, but the stone was in the ring.
in the snitch. In the snitch.
No, no, no.
Or yeah,
But the
right.
the stone originally was in the ring, and he only got the ring when Harry already had the cloak. So technically, Dumbledore
True.
never had all three at the same time either.
Oh, you're right. Man. So I think maybe that's that. Okay, so that kind of explains my where my disconnect with this chapter is because like it's building up like these three items being to be super powerful and super significant, and yes, in their own ways we see them all play out in their own ways as like individually being very important and significant, but it's there we're told in this chapter that like it's supposed to combine and like make the owner of all three into like this like to be like this big thing, like they're the master of death. It's like a big deal to have all three together, and we as readers literally never get to see that play out, and so it kind of just feels like a little bit of a waste of energy.
Well, and does it is it written that way because we need to see that Harry transcends the need of having all three at the same time? Like he can be Voldemort even without having all three at the same time. Is
I
that
mean maybe,
important
but
to
I
us?
yeah, I mean it's not maybe, but it's not like said, with words. It's not like it's kind of like a background thing, right? Like it
Yeah.
doesn't say
Yeah.
anywhere in the text like it is so like Harry was so powerful that he was able to do it without like it doesn't say that. It's just kind of like we come to that conclusion as readers.
Correct.
But so I just feel like they're not trying to make that important like in the text. I don't know. It just feels odd to me that it's being built up that so much in this chapter and then we literally never see the payoff.
Yeah.
So,
It's interesting.
yeah.
So that's I'm glad we had this conversation about it because this is going to be interesting in
Oh,
how
I'm
we
glad too
talk
because
about.
I couldn't figure out why I was not fully blown away by this chapter, and now I understand, and that makes me happy.
Because there's no pay there's the yeah there's you're right, there's no connection to the payoff at the end, right? Like the payoff
Yeah.
at the end is more like, well, Harry destroyed all the Horcruxes because that was his mission wasn't really to like bring all the Deathly Hallows together and become all powerful to defeat Voldemort.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it just seems like a little bit of another one of her of the author's red herrings, you know.
Yeah, I'm just kind of curious as to why she even included the, you know,
Master of
someone
Death.
yeah, why someone who possesses all three will become master of death. Like I think that she could have just left it as like these are three individual items that were created by death themselves that are extremely powerful, and this is why they're important individually. And I don't think that we needed to like throw in the like, oh, like all three together are super powerful when you have them all, because that doesn't matter because that never happens. So like it would have been enough to just been like there's a cloak that is truly invisible. There's a stone that can like bring people back from the dead, which no other magic ever created can do. And there's a wand that can literally beat any other wand that it's fighting in any duel. Like that alone is going to be important to the plot. So I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's something to think about. But as we think about like what the politic of the chapter was, Helene, what was your choice for the politic, and can you tell us about it?
Yeah, I went with blind faith. So, blind faith is defined as unquestioning faith in someone or something that is not supported by reason, logic, or evidence. So, obviously, like anecdotally in society, blind faith is usually associated with like with religion or like the existence of a god. That's usually
Mm-hmm.
what when we talk about blind faith outside of the Harry Potter series, that's kind of the context that it's in. So like even though we don't have any solid proof that a god exists, the mere thought of it just helps like a pretty big portion of the population. I don't have numbers in front of me, but I'm pretty sure that more than 50% of the human population on Earth like ascribe to some religion of some sort with some sort of theology figure. And so the mere thought of the fact that a god is out there, even though we have no solid proof, it helps people make sense of the world around us and like put that the vastness of the universe and the meaning of life into perspective, and therefore it can give people purpose and community. And so that's kind of like the reason blind faith exists, I would say. In this chapter specifically, we see Xenophilius fervently believing in the existence of these Deathly Hallows, these three objects, without having any evidence whatsoever personally of knowing that they exist. And he has no logic to back it up because, as Hermione points out in the chapter, like this magic, by all means, shouldn't be able to exist. We don't have any way to make these things exist magically in the scope of logic. But for some reason, he's very, very, very like positive that it exists, even though he's never come into contact with them or anybody who's had them or anything. Hermione, on the other hand, like I mentioned, is ruled by logic. That's how she navigates the world. That's how she makes sense of the world. She doesn't have blind faith. She
Mm-hmm.
believes things that she can see and things that she can explain, and like things that she can look up and find like specific answers for. And since everything in her current knowledge that she has would suggest that it would be impossible for these things to exist, she just cannot accept any reality in which their existence might actually be fact. So we see both sides of the spectrum here in terms of blind faith.
Yeah.
So I think personally that maybe believing that the Hallows exist somewhere out there is how Xenophilius copes with his mortality after the death of
Mm-hmm.
his wife, because Pandora died when Luna was very young, and now also the disappearance and potential death of his daughter, because Luna has been kidnapped and he doesn't know what her fate is going to be. And their existence and just believing that they're out there helps him make sense of like the great feats that other wizards have somehow been able to manage that he just can't seem to fathom like having achieved himself. Like he wants to believe that there's something bigger out there, something that can solve all of the problems in the world magically that he doesn't have any logical like explanation for them really existing out in the world. So just
Yeah.
like the people in our world who have blind faith in God or deity or whatever because it helps them, you know, give their life meaning and purpose, or it gives them community, or it helps them make sense of the world around them. The Deathly Hallows are that to Xenophilus, in the fact that like these mystical things that might exist out there somewhere that he has no evidence for can help people avoid death, and therefore death doesn't have to be like this huge scary thing that because he deals with it and he dealt with it very much so in his life, and he doesn't want death to like rule him. I think it's kind of
Yeah.
how I see it.
I really like that. Thanks, Helene.
Yeah.
My politic kind of intersects like a tiny bit with yours, and I'll explain how. So my politic is the politic of imagery, and at first I was thinking about imagery in the sense of like religious iconography,
Okay.
in a way. But then, like, I kind of thought, like, let's broaden this a little tiny bit, but kind of base it on that idea of like images can have like evoke powerful emotions and in people, right? So images can shape international events and our understandings of them, like photographs. Think about like photographs that you've seen of like war, or like photographs that have become iconic about anything that's been happening around the world, and how that's influenced us, how we approach like anything, right? Like even like an election campaign, like that Obama Hope poster was like
Hmm.
so evocative in politics, right?
Yeah.
And it kind of launched a bunch of other ideas. So then we also have like in our world we have like digital media, like all the memes. Sadly, like the Pippa the Frog meme, it was like instrumental in making Donald Trump our president, whether we want to admit it or not. And
Oh
like
my gosh.
everything that is curated around us is influencing us, even if we're not thinking about it, right? Like if we're not like we can say like, oh yeah, like I don't really pay attention to that. Guess what? You are paying attention to it. Your like brain is paying attention to it. So I wanted to think about the politics of imagery, and the way we see it here is like the Hallows symbol being a way for Zeno to let other people know that he's a believer, right? Like just like a Christian would wear a cross
Yeah.
on their
Yeah.
chest to signal to other people that they are believers, or like the Jesus fish on the cars.
The
Like,
Jesus, I forgot about the Jesus fish. Why is it a fish? I never understood that.
oh, because of the like loaves and fishes thing where Jesus like multiplies like loaves and fishes. Do you know that story?
I don't, but even if I did, that seems just like such a random thing to latch on
So
to.
one of the like miracles, right, that Christians believe, right, that Jesus performed is this feat of like multiplying loaves of bread and fish. Like there was like, like a couple to feed this entire crowd.
Okay.
So that's kind of where that like
So,
comes
like,
from.
of all things, why did the fish become like
No
the
idea.
icon?
I can
Okay.
research this for you for you and get back to you. To me,
Okay.
like honestly, to me the most iconic miracle that Jesus performed according to the Bible is his first one, which is turning water into wine. And I am not seeing bottles of wine on any
I
fucking
was
cars.
literally gonna say, like, it would make more sense to me if it was like a glass of wine. Like,
Honestly, right?
yeah.
Oh, petition to make glass of wine decals to
But
like
also, like, because it
replace
has,
fishes.
I mean, it has a double meaning, right? Because the whole like the miracle turning water to wine, but then also wine is meant to symbolize the blood of Christ, and you drink it every time you have communion. Communion, so like it means both things.
Well, the thing with the wine also is interesting, like in a narrative sense, because like his first public miracle, right, was turning water into wine, and it was at the behest of his mother. Like she nagged him into it, basically, as the story goes.
Okay,
Um, like so classic, right? Moms nagging at a wedding, and
she's a Jewish mom too. I'm pretty sure they were
she's
Jewish, so.
yes, she is a Jewish mom, and you are correct.
And Jewish moms love to nag, so
So
have
do
from
Puerto Rican
experience.
ones. So we've got that in common.
Yep.
Um, then oh, now I'm a Puerto Rican mom. Shit.
Yep. Well,
Well,
yeah.
whatever. Anyway, and at the like Last Supper, he is like giving like wine to the disciples, saying drink of this as if it was my blood or whatever, which is where that sacrament comes from, right?
Okay.
So it's like the first miracle and kind of the last time he was technically alive,
Hmm.
in a narrative sense. It's kind of like putting like that bow on the present.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, definitely petition to change the Jesus fish to Jesus wine glasses.
Guys, come
It
on.
just
It's
it just
so
makes
great.
sense.
It
It
just
just
makes
makes sense.
sense. Think
Yeah.
of all the wine moms who would like definitely use this as an excuse to be like, yes, I will convert to Christianity. They got those wine decals.
Yeah, because like no one's converting for fish. I gotta tell you, I love fish, but I wouldn't convert for fish.
I gotta tell you, I grew up in an island. I'm not converting for fish. I hate fish. So you're welcome. Or maybe do I love fish enough not to eat them? That's a real question. More coming at 10.
Yes. So anyway,
Another
imagery.
Oh, sorry. Coming back to imagery, another big thing with imagery in this chapter is, of course, Luna's painting in her room, and like also
Yeah.
the image of her and her mom and how she looked not as disheveled as she usually does or whatever, and
Yeah.
like the dust on the frame kind of clues in to Harry, like, hey, something's not right, guys. So imagery is pretty prevalent in this chapter.
Yeah. Agreed.
So, as far as blind faith, what was your quote?
Yeah. So the quote I picked for this one was, "But then, do you mean," said Hermione slowly, and Harry could tell that she was trying to keep any trace of skepticism out of her voice, "that you believe these objects, these hallows, actually exist?" Xenophilius raised his eyebrows again. "Well, of course." "But," said Hermione, and Harry could hear her restraint starting to crack. "Mr. Lovegood, how could you possibly believe—" "Luna has told me all about you, young lady," said Xenophilius. "You are, I gather, not unintelligent, but painfully limited, narrow, close-minded."
Honestly, painfully limited is my new slander of choice. You know, like,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
are painfully limited.
yeah, yeah. It's just it's very, this whole conversation is very reminiscent of, say, like a devout Christian talking to an atheist,
Yeah.
you know? In a way, he kind of gives off this like, I'm better than you because I have like faith and I believe in something, and
Mm-hmm.
you just can't seem to open your heart and mind to believe that things out there exist that you can't explain.
Yeah, it's almost like I feel sorry for you that you can't expand your mind.
Yeah. And that condescension is definitely a huge part of the criticisms that people have against highly religious people in our society.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes sense.
Well, and like you said, like the part about like blind faith and how Xeno like just grasps onto it like so hard as a
Yeah.
way to explain the grief that he has to deal with in his life. That's
Yeah.
also a lot of what happens to a lot of very deeply religious people. I'm not saying all of them, but like a big number of them, it's like they have to find a way to explain what is to a lot of people unexplainable.
Yeah. And a lot of people, for some reason, tend to latch on to the afterlife as being like the biggest thing that they can work for in this life.
Mm-hmm.
And like, even though the afterlife is fully 100% not proven, and we have absolutely no evidence whatsoever that there is anything that after we die, we don't know that there's a heaven. We don't know that there's a hell. We don't know that anything happens.
Wait, have you not seen this documentary?
I
It's
mean,
called The
I'm
Good Place.
sure. Oh, the documentary starring Kristen Bell
Yes,
with Ted
correct.
Danson. Okay, yeah. I mean, I'm just gonna start calling all my favorite shows documentaries from now on. I can counter with, have you seen this documentary? It's called Lucifer. It's on Netflix. You should watch it. Um,
Oh
yeah.
my god, I'm so sorry.
You had me for a second. I was like, I'm sure there is a documentary out there that like quote unquote proves that there's a heaven or whatever, but I would not be surprised.
Oh, I thought I did not have you at all. Like I
No,
thought I was like,
I
oh,
was
she
like,
fucking knows. She fucking knows.
no, I was totally like, oh, okay, tell me about this documentary, whatever. No, no. Anyway, yes, people don't want to believe that not that you just die and nothing happens. So they want to. They I don't know why this is off topic slightly, but like people have decided to like make dying like a goal to like it's like a freaking competition. They've made dying a competition. Like how many like brownie points can I get in this specific area so that when I die I will be treated better than you do when you die? Like why does it fucking
well,
matter? Anyway.
well, it's dying is the oh my god, I'm gonna get so canceled for this. Dying is the new like how many books can you read for that free pizza at Pizza Hut? You know what I mean? Like just like just scoring points here. Like
Yeah.
anyway, you know what? Like one last thing before we move on to my quote, right?
Yeah.
What I have a little bit of issue with some of organized religion, and I say this as someone who is part of organized religion sometimes, is that we shouldn't be like doing like the good deeds because we're afraid that we might be going to the bad place or hell, as in the documentary Lucifer, because like are you just doing good things to avoid punishment, or are you doing good things because you just want to be kind and good to others?
I mean, I gotta say, this is one of the main reasons why I love being a Jew so damn much, because hell does not exist in Judaism. And I
Okay.
think that, and I just think that that makes the heaven exists in Judaism. And so like I think that it just makes so much more sense to like live your life doing good things for like because it feels good and because it benefits you and the rest of the world to do good things, and then avoiding bad things just because they're bad, not because you're going to get punished in eternal damnation for all like for your entire afterlife and suffer torment and hell for all eternity if you do bad things.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Honestly, I see hell as like a way for Christians to, or not just Christians, whoever believes in hell, because I don't know if other religions believe in hell, but I see hell as like a way for that religion to like
To
make
control.
certain, yeah, for to make certain things that they don't want to happen or don't want to like be done punishable.
Mm-hmm,
Like if hell didn't exist, then like they would have no backing up to say that being like a sin would have no meaning. Like who cares about sins?
mm-hmm.
Sins are things that send you to hell. If there's no hell, you do a sin, like shucks. Like I don't, you know what I mean?
Yeah, again, don't understand why we have to be kind of like afraid of punishment to be doing good things
Yeah,
because
it's just a competition. It's a way for people to feel better than other people. Sorry, I'm sure there are tons of Christians listening to this that are like so offended by everything I'm saying right now, and I am very sorry. But I mean, I am more than willing to have conversations with everyone who has opposing views, and I'd love to hear your side of things. It's just these are thoughts I've always had my whole life, and don't really ever get to
well, and
express.
if you have thoughts about this, you can go to you can send us an email at info@acciopolitics.com, acciopolitics@gmail.com. Go to our website, leave us a comment. There are
Yes,
many ways to contact us.
yes, exactly. Please do.
We are at acciopolitics on Instagram and Twitter too. Just putting that out there.
Yes.
Okay, so my quote. All right, so this quote is the moment Harry goes into Luna's bedroom, and it says the following. Luna had decorated her bedroom ceiling with 5 beautifully painted faces: Harry, Ron, Hermione, Ginny, and Neville. They were not moving as the portraits at Hogwarts moved, but there was a certain magic about them all the same. Harry thought they breathed. What appeared to be fine golden chains wove around the pictures, linking them together. But after examining them for a minute or so, Harry realized that the chains were actually one word, repeated a thousand times in golden ink. Friends, friends, friends.
That part made me tear up when I read it.
Always one of my favorite parts of this book, actually, is this imagery. But I also thought it was like evocative of understanding Luna's perspective in all this, which we don't get to see often. And, you know, in the series, obviously the series is not about Luna, it's about Harry. But I don't gasp. Kel Surprise. So yeah, I wanted to talk about like, you know, the icon of, you know, Zeno using the, you know, the symbol to kind of be like, shout out to the other believers in here. We got a secret society. It's like, you know,
Yeah,
Christianity and
yeah.
also the Illuminati for some reason. But the idea that Harry can gain an understanding of Luna's perspective in all this by just seeing art that she created is
Yeah.
amazing to me. So I wanted to highlight that in this chapter.
Yeah. And it really just illustrates how lucky Luna feels to have friends, how lucky
Mm-hmm.
she sees herself to have such a good support system, even though like she isn't the most, what's the word I'm trying, self-conscious, or like, I don't know what the word I'm trying to think of is, but like she doesn't come off as like someone who doesn't, who like doesn't have confidence. And but like you can see in this moment that she sees how much of a blessing it is to have friends.
Yeah.
I just like it. It's cute.
Well, so when you read this chapter, who you were and you were thinking about your politic, who was the character that was first and foremost in the forefront for you?
I said Xenophilius, because he is the one that exhibits the blind faith in this chapter, whereas Hermione's kind of the foil to that,
Yeah,
and we get to
as
see that like
Hermione
kind of.
usually is towards the love goods.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so it was good to see both ends of it, but I think in terms of like actual blind faith, Xenophilius is the one we see the most of here.
Yeah,
What
he was
about for
also
you?
my character. He was
Okay.
also my character for imagery because just because of that moment that we mentioned about you know the chain around his neck being like
Yeah.
a visual sign of like secret handshake situation, like Mason ring, Illuminati's. I don't know. Take your pick of secret society.
Yeah.
Not that Christianity is a secret society any longer, but you know what I mean.
Yes. Yes. I do.
It's a very Da Vinci Code.
Yes, for sure.
So I want to talk about a little bit about how I see your politic in the series, blind faith. I feel like a lot of this series operates on a ton of blind faith upon like placed upon Dumbledore by Harry. Like it's like
Yeah.
this doesn't work if Harry doesn't put blind faith into Dumbledore. Yes, he questions Dumbledore sometimes, right? But like most of the time it's pretty blind faith
Yeah.
that he knows what he's doing.
He doesn't have a lot to work off of yet. He still just follows what Dumbledore tells him to do.
And also on the part of Dumbledore, there's a lot of blind faith on Severus Snape. Let's be clear. I
True.
would not
Yeah.
personally have that blind faith on Severus Snape of all people. And also on a child. He put all his eggs on this in this basket, on the Harry Potter basket. And love my boy, but he is also a child, especially like, you know, starting
Yeah.
at age 11 with this whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. I mean, it's a good point that Dumbledore has to just hope and pray that Harry does the things that he says he needs him to do. He
I
doesn't
just
know.
imagine like a scenario where like Dumbledore has like a secret compartment filled with like TVs of every angle of Hogwarts and it's just like like eating popcorn and being like, well, here he's at it again. Let me know when I have to, like, let me see when I have to intervene, because like this kid's gonna get himself killed before like our plans are done.
Yeah, totally.
What about you? How do you see that? Mind,
Yeah.
that,
Uh,
words, mouth words.
imagery, yes. I see imagery in the series, and the first thing that comes to mind for me is Harry's scar. Actually,
Oh yeah, great, great, great,
it,
great.
yeah, it's come to kind of mean so much to so many people. It's become kind of like a symbol of. I mean, I'm pulling it all the way back to a different series called The Hunger Games. You might have heard of it. Um,
What? An indie series,
I
clearly.
know. Possibly might have heard of it. I'm not sure. By Suzanne Collins. Stars Katniss, Peeta, Gale. But in that series, they have the symbol of the Mockingjay, which becomes like the symbol of rebellion in the series, and that's kind of, I feel like, what the scar somewhat becomes in this series. People see Harry's scar and they see it as like an act of defiance against Dumbledore, and like a symbol of hope that Dumbledore can be defeated. And obviously, it's something that, not only that, but it's something that is used very, very obviously to identify Harry immediately. Like, even later in this book, we see like Hermione has to put the stinging jinx on Harry's face when they're captured by the Snatchers in a few chapters, because his scar is going to be the thing that gives him away immediately that he's Harry Potter, and therefore he will most likely be captured and murdered by Voldemort because of it. So the scar is just like a huge piece of imagery. And then I would say maybe another thing that I would see in terms of imagery throughout is maybe like, I mean, obviously we have symbols like, the Hogwarts crest and things like that, but I feel like they're not as meaningful as some of the other images we've talked about, like in this episode alone, like the Deathly Hallows symbol. That's a big one, but we already talked about it. So I would say like Patronuses are like a,
Ooh, that's a great one.
yeah, like they're like a symbol that can stand for each individual wizard, but not only symbolizes like who this Patronus belongs to, but also like an aspect of that person's personality.
It's the Patronus is the Myers Briggs personality quiz of the
Right.
wizarding world.
Exactly. Yeah. And like every time we see a Patronus for a different character, like to some extent we're like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense." Like we see Ginny as a horse and we're like, "Oh yeah. Yeah, unbridled. Yeah, that makes sense."
Yeah.
And Luna is is a hare, a rabbit. And it's like, "Yep, yeah, I could see that." And it's like they're not obvious, but like the imagery is just it matches.
It just fits.
Yes. And also, as we know, like with Snape and like the dough and stuff like that, like like they symbolize specific things that happen in people's lives. They When people send their patronuses as messengers or whatever, um that's like a very identifying image for people when they see it.
Like,
So
of who is it coming from, and usually it's because you have seen, that Patronus before, and that means that that person trusts you enough to have them see something so revealing about their character.
yeah, yeah,
That's interesting. I really like that, Helene.
thank you. Yeah, I thought that matched well with your politic.
As always, you're amazing. Speaking of amazing things, chocolate is amazing. And you know what's not amazing? Dementors. So let's
That
go to our Dementors and chocolate section, where we talk about what we didn't like about the chapter first, and then what we liked about the chapter, which is the chocolate.
Yes. First of all, before we get into it, were there any chocolate recommendations from you this week?
I have momentous news to people in the United States, which is that Target, or as the peasants call it, Target, is now carrying Cadbury cream eggs. So run, not walk, to your local Target and get your fresh Cadbury Cream eggs. They are in the Valentine's Day candy section near the back, usually. I've been to 2 different Targets and found them there. That is my
Oh my
PSA.
gosh. I'm very jealous because I haven't actually been into a physical Target yet since you told me, although I'm very excited. However, we my in my area, Instacart does allow like deliveries from Target, and the Target on my Instacart does not have them.
I believe it's
So
because they are seasonal and because it is not technically Easter yet, they're not putting them in the inventory for Instacart. Just
possibly,
pro
possibly.
tip,
So
pro tip.
yeah, I mean, when I finally make it out to an actual Target, I'm sure I will hopefully be able to find them. But I will say we have gotten like 8 inches of snow here in the last couple of days, and it's just leaving the house is not really in my top things to do. So, but when I do, I will get them.
Okay, understood. This is, yes, relatable. Understand. 8 inches of snow. I don't even know what snow is anymore. So I'm very blessed. Hashtag
I
blessed.
wish I didn't. Gosh, we've gotten so much snow this year. I wish we didn't. I didn't know what snow was. Whew. Anyway,
Well,
I don't have any.
at least when you get snow, your power grid doesn't completely shut down.
That is
Looking at
true.
you, Texas. Looking
Yeah,
at you.
when we get snow, our roads are completely plowed within like 24 hours. So we're very highly equipped to handle it, unlike Texas.
All right, fine. Tell me what you didn't like about this chapter, Helene. What was your Ted Cruz? What was your Dementor?
Yes, my Dementor this chapter was at the end when before the Death Eaters come, the trio is talking about which Hallow they would want if they could have one. They kind of say it at the same time, and like they all say different things. And Harry says the stone, and I think it, obviously for like comedic effect, it probably like it's possible that she just wanted them all to say different things, and therefore Harry had to say something other than the cloak because it made more sense for Hermione to say the cloak or whatever it is.
Well,
But
also, Harry has the cloak already,
yeah,
so.
exactly. But like he also should, because he has the cloak, he should know how fucking useful it has been his whole life, and therefore he should want that more than anything. But just the fact that he says the stone really bothered me and made and honestly made me sad because he literally just learned in this story, like this is immediately after they're told the story in the book, and the story says that the person who had the stone killed himself because the person that they brought back with the stone was like so unhappy in their world. And
Mm-hmm.
I just, I personally like, yes, the idea of bringing back a loved one to like spend more time with them, I know appeals to lots of people. And it obviously makes sense that it would appeal to Harry because he's lost so many people he cares about. But knowing that that is a consequence to this, knowing that that is a possibility that that using this object could drive you to such severe depression that you would want to kill yourself, like that alone is makes it an indefinite no for me. Like no matter how much I want to see someone that I love again, like I would not put them, their soul and me through that. And so the fact
Yeah.
that Harry, like his first thought is immediately like, "Oh, I would totally want the thing that's going to make me want to kill myself." Like that just it was not and it just didn't just bother me, but it just like made me really really sad for him. So that
Yeah.
was my Dementor.
Well, that's appropriate because it made you very, very sad. So
Mhm.
there you go.
Mhm. Yep.
Mine just brought up a lot of rage, and I feel like I have to like explain it before I say why it brought me a lot of rage. Because there's like this thing in society where like mostly men, but sometimes women are like, isn't it cute when women are like enraged or annoyed or like displeased? Isn't it cute to like laugh at them when they're like showing emotion that is displeasing? You know? So
Yeah.
it's this little nugget of a line. Hermione looked exasperated. The expression was so endearingly familiar that Harry and Ron grinned at each other. fuck everyone. Fuck everyone. I hate it. I hate it so much. Like, no. It's not like exasperation isn't cute because a woman's doing it. Fuck everything. That is my
Yeah, I
soapbox.
mean, yeah, I do think like I think she was they were trying to get at like, oh, this is something that like Hermione does so often that like it's comforting to Harry and Ron when she does it. But I understand that like being annoyed should not be like comforting to other people. People
And
I
it's
don't
not
want
like
people to get I don't want people to feel comfort from my annoyance. You know?
I guess it's because like okay, I'm gonna I'm gonna be like very vulnerable here. In my family, the national pastime is to see how annoyed I can get, and they think it's really cute,
Oh
and
yeah,
I just flip everyone off and be like, "You guys are terrible people. You do this on purpose. I fall for it every time. You know how to push all my buttons. Y'all are
yeah,
trash. I just wanted to have a good time."
yeah. I've had relationships like this before. It is very frustrating. I understand your pain.
And like, I had like romantic partners that would think it was like, oh my god, it's so cute when she's like when you're so mad. And I'm like, I want to fucking murder you and you think it's cute. That's really annoying.
Yeah.
So yes, this is where my pain comes from. Obviously, obviously, like I am very triggered by this. I'm very angry about this line.
Yeah.
Probably not anyone else is angered by this line, and that's okay. I just have to live my
Hey,
truth, you know?
we all bring our own experiences into what we're reading and we take our own things out of it, and this is just an example of that.
Yeah, but let's talk about the chocolate, the Cadbury egg, if you will. Um, what did you like in this chapter?
I mean, my chocolate is your quote. It was Luna's paintings. It was just I like I said I teared up when I read that part because it was just so endearing and cute that
I
Luna
know.
painted all of her friends.
It's my favorite. Like I love it so much. My chocolate was this following exchange because I love sassy Harry. Sorry, I
The
just think it's a
best.
mix. Sorry,
I just said he's the best.
I know he is. Um, It goes like this. Sorry, I just think it's a bit spookier if it's midnight, said Ron. Yeah, because we really need a bit more fear in our lives, said Harry before he could stop himself. God, like,
He's not wrong.
he is not wrong. This boy, love him.
Yeah, I love Sassy Harry. My favorite
Yeah,
variant
my
of
favorite.
Harry.
Yeah. So last time our fine podcast, which you can find wherever podcasts, fine podcasts are bought and sold for free 99. We asked the following question. If you were in Xenophilius' position in this chapter, would you have acted differently when presented with the same situation? Why or why not? Did we get some answers, Lee?
You know what? This was another one where I think that people didn't know how to answer. So we did get one answer. We got one from our lovely listener Dream Quaffle, who we can always depend on for
Count on.
yes, for answers both insightful and entertaining. And Dream Quaffle for this one they said, "Nope, when your child is all you have, you see things differently." And
I mean,
honestly, I think that possibly the reason we didn't get more answers is because I think that most people probably had the same reasoning.
the same thought process around it. I mean, yeah. I mean, fair. As everyone now knows ad nauseum, I now have a child, a human child, not a just dog children. But I think that if someone ransomed even one of my dog children, I would have also just thrown everyone under the bus. I'm not joking. Be like, give me back my Gael.
Yeah, yeah, and like for me, I obviously have not been in any sort of any sort of situation that's anything similar to this, but just knowing myself, I, as a true Hufflepuff that I am, value honesty more than a normal person probably should. I am honest to a fault, and I think that Adri, you would probably agree with that.
Yes, we had multiple conversations about this off mic.
Yes. And so I honestly don't know if I'd be able, like physically, like I do not know if I would be able to like not be honest and upfront with Harry when he got there. Like I
I
don't know.
mean, maybe the thing is like, would I have gotten to the point where like I wouldn't have like tried to fight my way towards my dog children? You know, like
Yeah.
maybe Zeno was just waiting around too much. You know?
Yeah, I think it all just really comes down to the fact that he did not, no matter how much he cares for Harry and like supports his cause, I think he just did not have enough faith that Harry would be able to help him get his daughter back, like if he worked against the ministry. And so he had to just believe that he had to work within the confines of the ministry and the stuff that they told him he had to do to get her back in order to get for it to be successful and not make things worse. But that was his fault because Harry is much more capable than he gives him credit for, obviously. And if he had just had a little bit more faith in Harry's abilities, not just Harry, but the trio, if he had more faith in the trio's abilities, then maybe he would have confided in them and gotten them to help him.
Yeah, that's true. I understand. So for this week, we've got the following question. If you had the choice, which Deathly Hallow would you possess and why? Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I've already hinted at one that I would not possess. I have made one clear that I would not possess, but of the two, I'm sure you probably could guess which one I would choose. But we can discuss it next week when we hear all of your answers.
Oh, this is going to be a heated discussion.
Yeah, I
Or
mean,
not.
I feel like there's a popular choice.
Yes.
And I can see why it's popular, but there are other people that I've seen say other things. So I am interested to hear uh,
Are
what you
you
all have to
referring
say.
to Harry, Ron, and Hermione?
No, I
Like,
mean them as well, but no, I have seen people like say
just,
that they like real people in the real world, not in a book, say that they would
what?
like want the stone or, yeah.
You mean that this isn't a history book?
I know, right? It's not.
I've been reading it all wrong all this time.
It's a documentary called Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows.
Have you seen Have you seen the accompanying documentary films? All eight of
Honestly, get on it. So you call yourself a documentarian.
them. Speaking of media that we consume on a regular basis, Helene, what documentaries have you been consuming? What history texts?
Surprisingly, no documentaries. I alluded to some of the things earlier and at the beginning, which I watched Wednesday and I watched Glass Onion. But since we've had such a long break, I've actually I bought myself a Kindle. I don't remember if I mentioned this on the pod. You know this, obviously. I think you and I have talked about this, Adri, but
Yes,
off mic.
yes.
But I don't remember if I've mentioned on the pod that as one of my Black Friday gifts to myself, I bought myself a Kindle for the first time.
Iconic,
And
honestly. Iconic.
yeah, and it's doing exactly what I thought it would do. It is getting me to read more, and I have literally been just plowing through books, and I'm very happy about it. Um, I One of the books I read over break was Book Lovers by Emily Henry, which I know is one of your all-time favorites, and we have
Yes.
discussed it briefly.
Yes.
Yes, you're a fan of that one. I loved it. I didn't I didn't love it as much as People We Meet on Vacation, but that's just me. I did love it as like
Okay,
a
so like I feel like People We Meet on Vacation had I think you said you didn't quite relate to the main character, right? Was that right?
yeah, I mean, that was one thing. That was one thing about it. Yeah, I didn't relate to her as much, but I can definitely see why you would relate to her. She's definitely relatable to a lot of people in my life, but it
You
was
mean to
hard for
sharks?
me. Yes, yes, to bloodthirsty sharks who recommend Bigfoot erotica to random strangers.
Listen, that is a spoiler, and I feel like we should have given listeners an alert.
It is not a spoiler.
that is one of my favorite parts of the book.
Yeah, I died. That part was hilarious. Honestly, though, like even though like the story itself didn't enwrapt me as much as People We Meet on Vacation did, I mean, I cannot discount Emily Henry one bit. She is a fucking amazing writer.
Yeah.
She is so engaging. I love her so
Her
much.
character development is top notch.
Yes, and I gotta say honestly, and I think Book Lovers wasn't actually the book I was expecting it to be, because
Yeah.
I was going into it thinking it was going to be like a cute rom-commy, like falling in love, like love story, obviously. And I know that like Emily Henry doesn't tend to be very spicy. She's not one of the spicier romance novelists, which is fine. So I didn't expect it to be like erotica, but I expected it to be a love story. And it was, but in a completely different way. Because
Yeah.
spoiler alert, it's not really a spoiler alert, but like to set your expectations, 100% you need to go read this book. It's a great book, but it is a story about the love between two sisters. The
Yeah.
story is about Libby and Nora. It is not about Nora and Charles. Wait, what was his name? I just read so
Charles.
many. It is Charles. Okay,
Yeah.
I read like four romance novels. I like there are so many like names. I'm like, okay,
If you
but
like, I mean, if you like rom coms that are more about the love between family members and not just the romantic love, there's this movie that came out in I think 2003, 2004. It's an indie with big names. It has Shirley MacLaine, it has Julia Stiles, and it's called Carolina.
okay,
So
okay,
that, I mean, it's a movie, not a book, but it's pretty good.
cool. I'll have to look into that. But yeah, when I finished the book, I was like, yeah, this was a beautiful love story, but it wasn't the love story that I was expecting, which is not a bad thing. It's just you know it just threw me by surprise. So that one is good. And then I also just finished one 2 nights ago called Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. This is
Mm-hmm.
I believe I talked about my first Christina Lauren foray, which was my favorite half night stand a couple of podcasts back. And that one I wasn't super taken with. I didn't dislike it, but I had my problems with it. And so I'm so glad I didn't just, throw off
Give up.
Christina Lauren forever. Yeah, I'm glad I didn't just like not go back to her. Um, this one came highly recommended in terms of like the types of romance and like
Actually,
stories.
give up on them. It's a duo.
Right, it is. Yeah, you're right. I always just refer to it as one person, but it is two people. Um, and Love in Other Words was honestly amazing. It did not take People We Meet on Vacation spot. It is not the number one, but I'd say it is really high up there. And I think that it does not hurt that they are very similar books. Um,
I I am so interested to see how in your reading journey if anything comes close to dethroning people
this
we
one
meet on
got
vacation.
this one got really close. It did get, but I had like a few more issues with it than I did with People We Meet on Vacation. But honestly, this one, I loved the writing style because it's so like was so reminiscent of People We Meet on Vacation in the terms in the like it wasn't told in the two different no, People We Meet on Vacation wasn't told in two different perspectives in a way. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is it's very similar in the fact that like it is told in two different timelines. We get
Yes.
the present and then it goes back to the past when they're
Yep.
like first, and like so we see their relationship developing simultaneously with them reconnecting later in life. um so it's kind of like a mixture of friends to lovers and a second chance romance in one, and the twist at the end like completely got me. uh and I was bawling my eyes out, sobbing. And it is so rare that a book can do that to me. And that's why I think I loved People We Meet on Vacation, because that also had me sobbing. And so did this one, for different,
Okay.
very, very different
So
reasons.
So you like a good cry, is what you're telling us.
Okay, so yeah, I'm like a what is it, sadist? That oh no, what's masochist? So the people that like pain. I like pain because because um I just can't think of the word.
Listeners, if you could see my face right now, I'm like, oh god, this got
Okay, when it
deep.
comes no,
Okay.
okay, not physical, obviously not like a kink. I'm not talking like a kink. I'm talking about like when it comes to. I'm not going to talk
Oh,
about my kink.
you just like
Um,
emotional pain.
when it comes to the media that I choose to consume, if something can elicit a deep, like genuine emotional reaction out of me, then I know that it has done its job. Basically. And like
See,
I
for
cry a lot. Like I cry watching things all the time. But like there is a difference between just like crying and like sobbing. I can like list the number of things on maybe not one hand, but two hands that in media that have made me full out sob. And I can remember most of them because they are that
okay,
good.
for a future episode, I need you to write these down and list them.
I mean, a few off the top of my head are the episode where George O'Malley dies in Grey's Anatomy. Will
Okay.
always that one got me. The body in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the whole episode, the body, season 5,
Okay.
completely ruins me every single time I watch it. People we meet on vacation sobbed my eyes out. The twist and Love in Other Words saw my eyes out. It's just those are off the top of my head. I could probably make a more comprehensive list, but
So
um,
I have a quick like memory that was jarred loose by your admission. So when I first read A Walk to Remember,
mhm.
the movie had not been out. So I had this was in the pre-internet days when there were not a lot of spoilers online, and I did not know a lot of readers, so no one could really spoil it for me. And when I turned into the twist of I have cancer, it's like midway through the book or whatever. And it's the
Yeah,
50s because it's set in the 50s, not in modern day like the movie was. And
yeah,
you're like, shit, you know she's gonna die.
yeah,
Stop, like, close the book, sob my eyes out. Eyes out.
yeah.
It was
And some
bad.
people hate that. Some people hate that, and I love it. I love when something makes me cry because, like, that means that I connected to it on such a deep level that it, like, it affected me just like anything that would have physically happened to me in my own life would have affected me. And therefore, I think that it was executed well.
Also, when Dumbledore died, also sobbed my eyes out.
Ooh, yeah. I don't remember. I don't remember how if I like like I'm sure I cried, but I don't remember if I like sobbed.
Like, you know how I remember I sobbed because I closed the book. When I have to close the book to gather myself, I know that that elicited like a very strong
Yeah.
reaction, and
I
I
don't
had both
know.
those reactions.
Yeah, I don't know if I actually had that type of reaction at all in Harry Potter. I'd say maybe the closest I got to it might have been when Hedwig died, cuz like
Aww.
I went back and reread that section like 6 times to like make sure that my eyes weren't deceiving me, cuz like I was like in the denial stage of grieving for like a good portion of when that first happened. Um but that's like the biggest reaction I can feel like I got for Harry Potter.
Fair, fair.
But yeah, and I am so those are two that really stood out to me. I am currently reading a book called A Lot Like Adios by Alexis Daria.
Okay.
It was recommended to me by a friend.
I think I've read her first one, which was I think called "You Had Me at Ola."
Yeah, You Had Me at Ola is another one. And they're so similar in title that I thought maybe it was a series, but it's not. I think they're separate.
No, it's not. It's not.
But yes, A Lot Like Adios is the one I'm reading right now. I literally just started it last night. I think I'm like maybe 5 or 6 chapters in.
Is that a
Um,
refresh me? Is that a second chance love story?
it's another yeah, it's a friends to lovers second chance romance.
Yeah.
Just I've been gravitating towards those. I've obviously been reading other ones as well, but this one I told them about Love and Other Words and they were like, "Oh, that sounds a lot like a book that I read called this and I really liked it and it was spicy." And I'm like, "Ooh, I want spicy. I'm going to read it."
So I love how you're just like embracing your I love like second chances, like friends to lovers situation because you and I have such different likes in that area.
Yeah.
My like favorite trope is
Enemies
enemies
to
to
lovers.
lovers and
Yeah.
fake engagement. Like
Yeah. I I need to read more of those to fully form an opinion on them. I have the Unhoneymooners in my library, so I'm going to read
it
that
is
soon.
so good.
And then obviously I'm trying to space out my Emily Henry books because she only has 3 out and her fourth one comes out in April and I've read
Yes.
2 so far. So like I'm trying to space them out so I don't have like a a whole period of time where I don't have her. But so I have Beach Read, obviously, which is the last one that's currently out. I've already pre-ordered Happy Place, which comes out on April 25th.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so obviously I have that coming up. I don't remember. I think is that Enemies to Lovers? I can't remember.
I don't remember,
Okay.
but I will read anything that she writes, even if it's not my trope, you know?
Yeah, I mean, same. She's so good. I
Like
know I'm gonna
like
like it anyway.
like people we meet on vacation, not the trope I like, you know?
Yeah,
But shit, it was so good. Like
yeah.
I really loved it.
There's a new book, and I don't know how new it is, but there is a newer book out by Christina Lauren called The True Love Experiment. That
Oh, I think
I
I read that.
did you read that one?
I
It
think
looked
I
like
read
it
that.
was somewhat newer. I just put that on my to be read list because um that one looks very interesting
Well,
to me as well.
the there's one by Christina Lauren that I really really like. It was the first one I think I read. I think it's
Was that
called
Roomies?
Roomies.
Roomies. Yeah,
Yeah.
I have that on my list too. I have to read that. And there's one other one from her that
That's
I
kind of
have.
like not even it's not even like it's just fake relationship
Yeah.
trope.
Yeah. I'm loving it. I'm loving like all the like reading. I always loved to read, but I never really like I was so limited to what I would be interested in reading. A lot of it was just kind of like fantasy novel series, like, Harry
Hmm.
Potter, The Hunger Games, Percy Jackson, like Twilight, those types of things. And I would just like not be interested in trying other things. And I'm just very excited to like learn more and get more into like this era of like reading these romance like novels because honestly I found something that I really thoroughly enjoy and it's just fun. I like it a lot.
Okay, so last question.
Yeah.
What what is something that in a romantic hero that makes you go like, "Yes, I am very invested in this." Like I
Ooh,
know my answer.
ooh, it's a good question. What's your answer? I want to hear your answer first.
Okay, like like put it in my veins directly, inject it directly into my veins. A
Yeah.
grumpy hero and like a chipper heroine, like it's like a Roy Kent of the world,
So
salt of the
literally
earth, Roy
people we meet
Kent.
on vacation, Alex Nelson
Yeah,
and
yeah,
Poppy. Alex and Poppy. Yes.
yeah. Like just because the trope isn't my cup of tea, like
Yeah.
that pairing, love it. Yes, give me more.
Yes.
Like
Yeah, yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Um, the other thing like it could go either way, like it could be like the guy is a little bit more chipper than the woman, just like in Book Lovers, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean he's grumpy but in a different way that she's grumpy, you know what I mean?
Yeah, their grumpiness like complements each other.
Correct.
I don't know. For me, I want to say like I'm just like an emotionally intelligent and mature man, like sensitive man. But like that would probably be what I tend to gravitate towards. However, and I understand why this is a thing, but when you have a hero like the male, you know, part is this like emotionally mature, sensitive man, obviously the writers feel that they need them to be opposites, right? So like they need to be foils to each other in order for it to be a good
Correct.
story. And so
Yeah.
therefore the woman has to be you know unemotional or not in touch with her feelings, or, not sensitive or emotionally mature or whatever, to complement having this male hero that's, all those things. And I it's hard for me because I cannot relate to those heroines, because
Yeah.
I'm not like, it's just not like who I am.
Well,
And so
I
it's like I want that hero, but then it makes it harder for me to enjoy the story overall because I can't relate to the heroine as much.
so there's this these writers that have, well, an editor, a romance editor and a romance writer who have a podcast, and it's the name is escaping me, but it's very, very good. And they talk a lot about how if you are making your hero, for example, a firefighter, then your heroine better be a fire starter.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it makes so much sense plot wise why they do that, because a lot of people, the majority of people, aren't going to want to read a book about two emotionally mature and emotional and like sensitive people falling in love, because like, where's the fun in that?
Where's the tension?
Yeah, like where's the conflict? How are you going to have conflict in that situation? But like, I would read that. Like, the
Okay, so
conflict and the tension can come from other places. Like, I would love
so
if both people were emotionally mature.
so the podcast is called Fated Mates.
Fated mates. Okay, cool. Good to
So they
know.
go through romance novels, and they talk about like all the things, like kind of like a deep dive on the novel, and they talk to authors sometimes. It's really interesting, and like how they kind of deconstruct the
I'll have
romance
to try and
genre.
see if they have episodes about some of the ones I've read so far, so I can get an
I think
idea
they
of.
have episodes on Bridgerton, at least.
Okay. Okay.
So that might
I
be
still
interesting to
That's
have
also
a list.
a thing I still have to finish. I still have to read the seventh and eighth, and then go back and read the first two, because I didn't read them since I saw this show, but I have them. I just didn't read them.
All right. Okay. Well, I'll make this quick. My cousin has been staying with me, as I said earlier, and she's obsessed with new to her show, which has been on since 2018, called The Resident. So we're now
Okay.
making our way through it. I'm kind of like tapping in and out here and there because I mean
Isn't
she's on vacation. I'm not.
isn't that the one
The
with
guy
Matt?
from Gilmore Girls. Yeah,
Yes. I'm like, how do you say his name? It's like Matt Shoot. I can't
our
know how to say.
our our friend Matt from Gilmore Girls is how I call him.
Yeah, the best uh Rory love interest in Gilmore Girls. Hell yeah, yeah.
Logan. Yes.
Logan is the best. Yes. I'm just looking up how to pronounce his last name, because it's really gonna bother me. Uh,
She has the biggest crush on him, and it's really cute.
I do not blame her. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. This is saying it's Zucri. It's spelled Czuchry.
I feel like Helene Zucri has like a great ring to it.
I think that you are not wrong. It's a Ukrainian last name, and he's beautiful, and he's how old is he? He's older than my sister, so never mind. But he's beautiful. Uh,
But Helene, you're mature for your age. I feel like,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, he's like 44. He's like 45 or so.
you can make it happen. You can make it work.
Sure, sure. I'll try. He's beautiful. I want to be a
Also,
Zukri.
he plays like, in the show he plays like this doctor, but he also, like, his dad is loaded in the show, and I'm like, okay, now we're typecasting him as like a little rich boy who's like
Yeah.
a little bit of a rebel.
Is he a womanizer too? Until he
No,
meets the one person that can tame him.
he's a really nice guy in the show,
That's
actually.
also a trope that, like, for some reason I fall for, like the
Yeah.
Logan, where it's like
Oh, the
they,
womanizer who falls in love.
yeah, the one who like who just sleeps with so many women until he finds the one that he wants to commit to. You know,
You mean the plot to Hitch?
yeah, kind of like the plot to like 50 Shades of Grey, honestly.
Mm, well, okay.
You know what I mean? Like, oh, I'm the only one that can make him commit. You know?
There's a Christina Lauren. I think their first not set of novels. It's like about billionaires.
Okay.
And it's like very 50 Shades of Grey before 50 Shades of Grey. And it's very spicy.
Spicy.
It's spicy, like my family who doesn't know how to pronounce words with S in the front. So something to look out for if you are interested in that trope.
Okay. All right. Good to know.
I mean, it was a little bit, for me, I was like, this is a little too much for me and my Puritan sensibilities. But okay, I'll read it. And I did read it, and I did finish it. And no regrets.
Amazing. Love it.
Love this for me. Anyway, that's it. That's what I've been doing.
Nice.
Well, that's it for today's episode. Please join us next time as we talk about chapter 22 of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. This one is actually titled The Deathly Hallows.
OMG.
We did it, guys. We got to the one chapter that's named after the book.
Yeah, it's like when you're listening to an album and you get to the song that's, the album name. You're like, this is it. This is the one.
This is it, guys. Wait, did Midnights have a song called Midnights?
Usually Taylor doesn't usually do that.
Oh yeah, because she just did like Lavender Haze, which is like starts with Meet Me at Midnight, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember.
She does reference Midnights a lot in the entire album, though.
Like, I'm pretty sure like there is a song called Lover on the Lover album. Like, she does it sometimes, but like I don't know if there's a song called 1989 on the 1989 album, See,
we started out the show with a Swiftie reference. We are ending on a Swiftie reference, full circle, chef's kiss. We've got this podcasting thing down.
Hell yes. If you've enjoyed this Swiftie-filled conversation, please take a second to give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you happen to be listening to us right now. It helps new listeners discover our podcast and makes us all happy and fuzzy inside because, of course, it does.
We couldn't get Taylor tickets, so please leave us a 5-star rating.
I couldn't even get off the wait list. Do not even remind me.
This is a fresh wound for all of us. Until then, politics managed. Support this show by going to patreon.com/acciopolitics. Our patrons keep this show going. You can find us online at acciopolitics.com, and we are at acciopolitics on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can email us your thoughts at info@acciopolitics.com. Leave us a voicemail at 915-996-1699, and you might just hear yourself on the podcast. Adriana Wilson is the founder and creative director of the podcast. Helene Karp is the producer and social media manager. Allison Pullman is the audio wizard and editor who makes us sound so good. Cover art and physical rewards are designed by Adriana Wilson. The views expressed by the hosts and guests are expressly their own and not representative of their employers or associates. Acciopolitics is part of the MuggleNet family of podcasts.